Update, our normally scheduled show, the normally scheduled time. I just want everybody to know thank you for the texts and the cards and letters. Gussie is marked safe today from the creepy Californian internet child stalker. Thank you for Sheriff Marshak, Sheriff Wheeler here in Cole County. Look, be on the lookout. You never know. These people are obviously couldn't tackle in high school. That's how you got to be in the charter thing. But the internet stalking of children is serious and weird. And we're on the lookout. Wardsville's ready. If we see some kind of bizarro skinny guy in a car drinking Starbucks, we're going to be on it. So thank you for this. I think we have it handled, but I appreciate all the concern. We are here with James O with Renew Missouri. James, we have the best time on these podcasts.
I love coming on here. Thanks for having me.
I mean, when we do your podcast, though, it's been 2 years in a row now. It is so fun. I always worry we don't talk enough about whatever we would talk because we start spitballing.
Right. Yeah, no, I think people say to me, it's like, this is a lot more fun than talking about energy policy, which is what I usually do on that podcast. But
it interweaves.
Look, it is utility is like a big issue. There's a lot of money in that. There is a lot of decisions that get made on that. And quite frankly, it's something everybody has to deal with. You all have an electricity bill.
Yep.
You all have a water bill. You all have a gas bill. And how that is decided, like how big that bill is, how much you have to pay, that all largely comes from the decisions made here in this fine capital.
So, James, tell folks about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I am from a little town called Elkland, Missouri, which a lot of people don't know, but that is just northwest of Marshfield in Webster County. My folks were dairy farmers.
Well, now, how close are you to Niangle, where Senator Blunt's from?
Well, that is on the other side of the county. He's in the northeast part of the county. I'm from the northwest.
Okay.
I'm from near, well, her name is escaping me now. Jay Nixon's wife. George Ann is from Elkland.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, her dad was superintendent of schools when we had a school in Elkland, which then got shut down in the 70s because
damn suburban people.
It consolidated.
Don't you think, though, it's time that the suburban people just admit that their consolidation things haven't worked? And you should deconsolidate those schools and make them more like Neelyville or state champion Blair Oaks Falcons.
Well, one thing that I hear people say in larger towns is it's good to have a neighborhood school. It's good to have a community school. It's like kind of near where you live. But like people in the country, like me, I think that we had to take a bus an hour to and an hour back every day. And I didn't really have any kids around with me. I mean, like I would have, of course, preferred to have been going to school like nearby as opposed to being hauled 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it's 20 minutes, but as the crow flies anyway.
I rode the old yellow dog 45 minutes one way.
Yeah.
There wasn't a happier old boy to get that 12-year-old Chevrolet pickup when he turned 16 than me and my buddy that got a ride.
I bet.
Yeah. I tell you, old dad was never quite understood why I would take the truck when that yellow dog had come by anyhow. But mom kind of stepped in on that fight. So tell me about Renew Missouri. What does Renew Missouri do?
Well, we work on clean energy policy, and I know that there's some confusion about the name because they think we just work on renewables, solar, wind, that sort of thing. But we work on energy efficiency, the ability to control how much demand you have. Like, so if you're talking about insulation in your house, appliances in your house, that sort of thing.
I'm an American.
Yeah.
Demand, I'm like, I got more demand. I don't want less demand, but I see what you're saying. But you talk about
to bring your costs down.
Yeah.
Which is very American that you don't want to pay more on your utility.
I get you. Well, there's some folks that, like with F-150s, they're like, well, just get you a Prius and then send your kid to charter school and stuff and start drinking some Starbucks. And I'm like, oh, damn, this is America.
You got the Lightning now. You can get a F-150 EV.
I'm going to tell you, I will say this about them cars.
Yeah.
I didn't like how Tesla didn't get a dealership. That's you don't come here with your hippie cars. You are to do Missouri rules and respect our traditions and customs.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I got in Sylvie. Sylvie bought one of them things.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing Sylvie would buy, right? And I got in it, and I didn't so much, the takeoff or charging. I don't get that. I don't care either way.
Right.
I'm not particularly climate sensitive, to be honest with you. But now I did like that navigation. You could just put in there, go to this address, and that car will, like the Jetsons, just take you there. That was so impressive to me. I think that's the problem that the trucks have is the trucks got to have the navigation system. And if they do, to me, the special sauce, I thought the government did a hell of a good job with solar research and solar. It seems they put a lot of money into it. Obama did a great job.
Yeah.
And made it a economically viable product from where it was probably conceptual back 15 years ago. The problem, the thing I love, though, is, to me, at Tesla, how it's powered is a secondary concern to me. That navigation, I don't know, is the navigation system tied in to the electric, or could you do it with a gas-powered truck? I don't know.
I mean, look, I think that's just something Elon Musk, very gadget-centered guy. I think that was something that was of interest to him. I mean, you don't see a lot of other manufacturers doing that.
And why not?
I think
Is
he
it
would
just
make
too hard?
I think he would make the argument that he's putting his money into innovation rather than like to the system that the regular car dealerships work with. And he's trying to say, like, I'm trying to do this direct. I'm trying to cut out costs. So I want to like invest that into technology and
now,
gadgets.
how are you going to tell a T-ball team in Wardsville to call Elon Musk and have him sponsor a T-ball team?
I bet he'd do it. He seems like a pretty generous guy, right?
Well, I tell you this. I think Twitter's worse. I like Elon Musk. I like that brash entrepreneur. Got a lot of respect for him as a businessman. And I use Twitter some, and I'll tell you, I will say this. When he was going to buy it, I was like, good, get rid of the bots.
Right.
You know, if you be a man, sign your name to what you're going to put out there.
Yeah.
But it's actually worse. Like, I have like 12,000 followers now. I'd be willing to bet you half of those are not attached to a real human being.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I was just talking to somebody about this. I think Elon Musk has done a good job of talking to and making kind of clean energy like electric vehicles and solar popular with conservative types. That we need somebody doing because it needs to be emphasized that it's cool, it's tech savvy,
It's going to work.
And it's going to work. And so I think that's good. So I wish he would quit trying to make Twitter into his X bank or whatever it is he's trying to do.
Yeah, well, to me, if you want to change the name of Twitter, that's fine. I don't particularly care, but I do feel like it's slower. I feel like it goes off a little bit. I feel like it's harder to search people's names, but mostly I tell people this, but you know, I understand if you put a lot of your time into some anonymous account, you don't care. But like, I will go back and forth with somebody on Twitter, like Camelia Peterson, somebody I like a lot.
Yeah,
she works for AFP. I'll argue with her because I like her and I respect her. And I'll give her a little grief. She'll give me a little grief. Or they're different funds. But like, if you're just some anonymous account, I'm not really interested in, you know, come back forward. I don't mind arguing with you, but I think he's really failed at that. I think it's actually worse.
Yeah, I've met people on Twitter. I've got to know people. I've got to learn a lot about the work I'm doing. I think it has a lot of value, but then there's just a lot of garbage on it too, which I mean, that garbage has gotten worse. You've always got to filter through that. You got to filter through the noise.
It's just too hard to verify somebody's who they are, but Facebook has a lot less of that. Somehow Facebook has put a little bit of a choke on that. And I think it's a much better platform because they have.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that's why I think Threads, their version of Twitter, might end up picking up steam because I think they're more conscious about like what the people that are going to be on there.
All right, let's talk about, so speaking of Facebook, Senator O'Laughlin, the Senate Majority Leader.
Yes.
She has some thoughts about renewable energy. Now
she does.
I'll break this out here. So there was a thing that the PSC, basically to have you, they would stagger your billing. So they could charge you a little bit more when the demand is highest, trying to get you to maybe get you a thermostat that you turn down when you're not at home or however. But I thought it was the PSC at work when they put this in place. It's a national trend. Reasonable people could debate whether it was good or not.
Right.
What's the billing? What's the term of it?
It's called time of use rates.
Time of use. Yeah.
Yeah.
But essentially, you pay a little more when it's in demand, and you pay a little less when people aren't using it. It's a national trend. It's probably been pushed a little bit in Washington. The PSC picks it up and put Evergy as the first one because they had some of the technology probably furthest along to do it. Evergy was not for it, but they went along and agreed to it. And now you're going to see, I thought the PSC did a smart thing. They were going to set this up where it went into effect in June.
Right.
At the hottest time of the year. Yep. I thought that was not, but then they amended that order. And I thought, you know what, that's a government body responding to common sense. I think it showed some of the problems with it, that they can't reach out to the parties while they're making these decisions. They're trying to it feels like sometimes the PSC has these judicial rules, but they're designed to make policy.
Right.
But they have a judicial framework that's really meant to decide law. And I'm not sure, like, I think you could have had a better ruling and got done the time of use in a better way right off the bat if you could do a little more communicating, just because I think it wasn't really, the argument wasn't, oh, don't do this or don't. It was, how do we do this?
Right. And look, Ameren has already got time of use rates in place. They are optional. You can opt into those as I think the terminology they use. But also the issue that the Public Service Commission took with that was the pricing on, because let's get this concept out of the way. Power costs different values at different times of the day. If you use it between 4 and 8 o'clock or between 6 and 8 a.m., It costs more because it costs more to produce because more people are using it. That's supply and demand. They are trying to move away from it. They are trying to reflect your bill to reflect that demand. And so they were trying to work with different prices with Ameren, but the prices weren't different enough. Like they basically, I think what Chairman Scott Roop's argument is that it wasn't making a difference. So we need to do something that is more, that kind of has more incentive for you to move away from using power during those times of day. So we're going to make the prices increase. And they also made it mandatory for Evergy customers as well, which I think is part of what Senator O'Loughlin's concern is.
Well, I think she didn't like the fact that Evergy was forced to do it. And I think overall, she doesn't trust green energy to be reliable. I mean, that's at the end of the day, there's a lot of policy arguments. Time of use to me is something that reasonable folks, you could set reasonable people in a room and argue what's good and what's bad.
Right.
I do think that at the end of the day, her basic point is, while this is a federal policy that's being pushed on states, I don't think
the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of things that are pushing that PSC and like Labor-D, basically trying to the federal government's doing everything they do to close Labor-D and just force Ameren into it. Mm-hmm. And depending on if there's a Democrat in the White House, Labor-D's got a target on it. If there's a Republican, they can somehow fire enough people at the EPA to get off their back. But I mean, it's a constant fight. She thinks that Labor-D's better than wind and solar.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think that is what we traditionally know is the case. But the thing is with coal plants right now is they're getting old. We're 40, 50, 60 years old. They are only built to be about 40 to 50 years old. There is no utility, no co-op, no municipality. Ameren, Evergy, Liberty are not building new coal plants.
Is that because they don't think they're good business or because the federal government is going to harass the hell out of them?
Well, look, I mean, is the fact that like part of their operation and maintenance a regulatory concern? I mean, of course, there is a regulatory concern, but that regulatory concern is there whether there's a Republican or Democrat or not.
Is there still coal that you could burn for the foreseeable future in the United States?
In Wyoming?
In the United States, I'm just saying.
Yeah, in Wyoming, there is probably still coal out there. But
Labor-D's business model has worked for a long time. Mm-hmm. Building another Labor-D is an option. I think the reason you can't build another Labor-D is because the federal government will harass the hell out of you.
And I think they would look at the fact that coal prices, gas prices, nuclear prices, when you look at the costs of this, quite simply, the fact is because solar and wind, you don't have to go haul in from Wyoming. You do not have to like do a bunch of things to, keep those plants running all the time. There is a cost value. There is a cost value to that. So it's not just, whether or not it's being regulated or there is a policy preference there. It is also a market preference. And there's also, I think it could be said, and I know there's a lot of people who think that corporations are being bullied into this as well. There is corporate demand.
Is that a fair point, though, that the federal government has put a spotlight on? I don't even know what kind of coal Labor-D burns. I'm not an expert. But it does feel, you even pick it up from even the Post-Dispatch coverage of it, just when like David Nicholas is a pretty guy that lays out facts.
Yeah.
The federal government has had a target on Labor-D, and that plant could continue on providing energy to people in St. Louis. And probably the determining factor that it can't is the federal government has been, I don't know if you call it heavy-handed, but definitely they've said, we want that thing going.
And I think you would also look at the fact that it's been around forever. You can look at market prices.
I mean, I take your point, but I mean, is my point, am I just wrong in how I'm looking at that?
Well, I think that we make choices about what kind of decisions businesses make every day. We do that with tax policy. We do that with utility policy.
Absolutely.
Is it to say that because we also subsidize gas and oil, we subsidize coal, we subsidize nuclear, we subsidize all of those things too, but I never hear any politician in Jefferson City complain about those subsidies. So that's an ideological thing. But we do all the time.
Anytime a suburban old boy has to do anything for anybody on gravel road, they whine. Oh my
That's
God,
right.
You don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to provide money to Marshfield Public Schools. I can tell you that if they're from a suburb.
No, I can tell you they wanted the folks that didn't live in Chesterfield at the time wanted the rest of St. Louis County, as Barge will tell you, to run those roads out to Chesterfield and that water and that sewer.
Right.
Now Chesterfield wants to not pay that back.
Right.
But that's human nature.
That's human nature. And so you can say like, well, I believe that renewable energy is unicorn dust. I think it's a myth. I don't think it's reliable. But the simple fact is you look at other parts of the country.
You hear people saying that, though. I mean, I hear people making arguments much more nuanced than that. I think renewable energy has reached a place where it's. I don't really see any serious person saying it's a myth. I'm saying I hear people making value judgments and comparing it to things.
People from Callaway County came to the Missouri legislature this year saying they believe that solar is nothing but a scam to get federal money. That is what they said on the record.
But that's one commissioner, right? I mean, I don't think that's the full. I don't think that's the full. Even the county commission's position.
We also just had a president saying that he believed that wind farms cause cancer. We just had a president saying
Biden?
that was,
I'm not sure. I didn't hear that.
Let me clarify. That was President Trump.
Didn't sound like Obama.
It did. No, Biden said we cured cancer yesterday.
Yeah.
But no, he has.
Here's a question I got.
Yeah.
Up in Callaway County.
Yeah.
Let's just start with Cali. It's a unique place. Nuclear.
Yeah.
Is nuclear considered renewable?
It is considered. It doesn't emit CO2 in the air.
But isn't that the backstop? The realistic backstop to solar power? If you mixed nuclear, which is probably the cheapest, most reliable power you could have.
It's very reliable. I don't know if I call it cheap. It's very hard to build out those nuclear power plants.
Sure. But you mix that with your renewables, that seems to be a cocktail that you could sell, right?
Yeah, look, I'm not under any illusion that we're going to be 100% renewable reliant in this state anytime soon.
Yeah.
Or maybe ever. I think if we have battery storage that gets to the point where we can store
that's the key, right?
That's the key.
You can have solar power is not a unicorn, does it? It does create power.
Right.
It's can you store it and transmit it, right?
And that's a problem with nuclear. That's a problem with coal. You got to make it when we need to use it. Now with nuclear, what I would say, there's no emissions that goes along with that. There's a lot of waste, which I know that's a challenge in St. Louis. We have like nuclear waste there. And it's also really expensive to build. We have cost overruns with almost every single nuclear plant that has been attempted to be built in the last 35 years.
A project that big, though, you're going to have. I mean, if you believe the contractor ain't going to see some change orders, you're pretty naive, right?
Well, of course, there's always going to be. But we're talking about years and billions of dollars in overruns. Now, if we can get that fixed, I mean, there's a belief that like small modular devices can come in about 7 or 8 years and like replace, what's going on in coal plants. Those coal plants are already hooked up to the system. That modular nuclear plant can go in there and hook onto that same system and be fine. Hey, great. If we can make that work, we should be able to make that work. But what I'm saying as far as renewable goes, I mean, that's like where we don't have to go get the material somewhere. It shows up to us. The sun's out or the wind's blowing. And then that's when you should be able to take advantage of that, as long as we don't have the ability to store it, which we are working on. And Evergy is working on. In that same rate case that did these time of use rates, Evergy got permission to work on big storage programs. They also have a pilot where they're going to be able to put residential battery storage in people's homes, and we're going to see how that works. And I think that could be really exciting.
So I think Senator O'Loughlin, if you know anything about this, which would make you probably more of an expert than me, Senator O'Loughlin will list her views on her Facebook page, and she tells you how to carry the cabbage. When you read this, you don't have to wonder what she's thinking about, right?
That's right.
So her argument is you have more reliable types of energy, and you have probably a growing use for energy for electricity with cars.
That is true.
I assume today, as we have this is the fewest number of electric vehicles will ever be in the state of Missouri. That number will only go up over time.
That's safe to say.
Which will increase the demand on the grid.
Yeah.
Her take is the federal government's coming in and forcing these companies to do what she considers build an unreliable grid that will at some point leave us stranded.
Well, what the federal government is doing right now is giving incentives. They're not forcing anybody to do anything. The Inflation Reduction Act.
Let me ask you about those incentives.
Yeah.
So they incentivize you to build a wind farm, right? North Missouri. You go to Maysville and build your wind farm. Fine.
Yeah.
Do they incentivize the building of it? Do they incentivize after it's producing energy? Do they give you a guarantee on what you can sell it for? How do they do that?
Yeah, they have the investment tax credit and they have the production tax credit. So they do have incentives for both.
So here's the question I would have for you.
Yeah.
Is if they help Evergy go to Maysville, put in another wind farm, which it's funny because I think the wind farms aren't ugly to look at, but some folks in DeKalb County do.
Don't
want to get my buddy Kyle White red-assed at me, but the fact is they go put this in.
Yeah.
What if that incentive goes away? Is the rest of Evergy's consumers going to pick up the tab for that?
I mean, those others are going to be around for 10 years, and by then we believe that a lot of that
So
expense
that
is always going to be
they
depreciated.
guarantee you the production for 10 years, so you can budget that, right?
Under the new law,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
So you'd have your capital costs paid down. I would think if the federal government guarantees you 10 years, that's about as good of a word as you're going to get, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, there are no guarantees in any kind of business. That's a private business, but
the federal government guarantees the best close you can get, right?
Right. Right.
In
They
reality.
do what they try to work the market.
The federal government goes screw you if they can, but for the most part, the federal government guarantees you subsidy for 10 years. That as far as things go in life, they get about believe that, right?
Yeah, but like what we're talking about with time of use rates and what Senator Laughlin's concern is whether or not people are being gouged for using power during these peak periods, what we call those, when people get home, before people go to bed. The reality is right now it is a mix of everything. It is wind, it is solar, it is gas, it is nuclear, it is coal. When we have that 4-hour period in the afternoon, or we have that 2-hour period in the morning, the grid is stressed. Everything has stress to it.
Folks should drink more. That way they would get up later and spread out that morning use, right?
We could talk about Evergy having a rate for people who are drinkers on that. Yeah, we could talk about that.
Well, I mean, you really, if you think about it, though, if you drink more at night, you're really helping the environment and your own wallet by getting up later. That way you're using more energy from, let's say, 7:30 to 9:30 instead of 6 to 8.
Certainly, if you're using your hangover rates.
See that now.
We should add those, maybe.
Yes.
Because I think ultimately
something tells me Lincoln Huff would be on board with your policy.
Because one thing I think Senator Laughlin and I could agree on is there are circumstances where people cannot reduce their costs during that period. People who have medical devices at their home, people who have all electric appliances at their home. I think the solution to that is not to not have time of use.
What does James Owen recommend? I'm not going to ask you what you have. If you was building your house right now,
yeah,
what would you, if you had options for gas, electric, what would you put in?
I put in electric.
Would you put in solar panels?
I have solar panels on my house.
What was the decision? How'd you make that decision? Break down your own personal wallet thing.
Well, I mean, like, look, I had the opportunity. I'm in the city of Columbia. That gives a lot of benefit for people to do it. They pay pretty well for that power. Other utilities don't do that. I saw it as a good investment.
Yeah. But that's the city of Columbia coming in and helping with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Columbia is going to have more liberal policies.
Well, when you pencil whipping it, you got to think about that. That's just bottom line.
Absolutely, and that's where I live now. Now, my family farm in Elkland does not have that because they're on Webster Electric, and Webster Electric does not want to encourage solar use from their customers.
And how much real demand today is there in Elkland for solar panel? Really?
Well,
I mean, you're a bad test case for that because I mean,
now that we're not in the dairy farm industry anymore, which used to suck up a lot of power.
Yeah.
Since we don't do that anymore, not as much. That's true. Unless we got like an electric tractor, which we don't have.
Like, break down this time of use. The fact of the matter is, you can educate people all you want.
Yep.
You got an old boy swinging a hammer day in the hot sun.
Yep.
He ain't gonna care what leaflet you put in his bill, or that's not his. He's gonna care when he opens up his bill, and I guess his June. Well, it was gonna be his October. June bill in July. He's gonna open up his October bill. That's why I thought it was smart. It's gonna be more. He's going to be a little pissed, but it's not going to be that much more because Yankees that much in October, right?
Not in October.
If you hit him in June, he opens that bill up in July, he was going to be pissed.
It'll still be a lot. I mean, if he's using his power between 4 and 8 o'clock.
The only way you're going to get that guy to change, when he gets pissed, he ain't going to call Scott Roop. He ain't going to call Mike Parson. Right. He ain't going to call Sunil Love. He ain't going to call you. He's going to call Evergy.
Right.
He's going to be pissed off. Yeah. And Evergy's got to explain it to him. And then probably as the months go forward, he will adjust his behavior for what benefits his pocketbook.
Yeah.
But for that first month or two, he's going to get hit.
Change is hard.
There's no way, right? There's just no way around that.
Yeah, there's no way around it. And I think the answer is that you should probably have more options for people, not just these 4 versions that have been approved by the PSC. I think if you look at other states, they have options that if you have medical equipment at your house
I know that your group sometimes is arguing different points.
Yep.
But it's got to be a little sympathy for for Evergy, in the fact that a policy they probably weren't pushing they're going to catch hell over it. Right?
Yeah, look, they didn't. I mean, look, this was not something that we were involved with this case. We were involved with the time of use rates specifically for solar customers. We didn't think about the idea that this would be mandatory for its customers. I don't think anybody was. Now I've talked to people at the Office of Public Counsel. They are, they think conceptually they see benefits to this, but I think it is going to have to be modified. It's going to have to be changed a little bit. we are going to have to factor in a lot of other.
Is the mandatory part. Like, I'm a believer in change. And I believe that, and the people at KCPL are pretty forward thinking. Like, they could have fought this harder in some aspects.
They could have appealed it. When
it came down to the end of the day.
Yeah.
The mandatory part is if you're changing stuff, giving folks the options. Well, that seems like a way we're from the show me state, right?
Right.
Bring me in a little bit and let me see how this goes. And I'm with you. I think probably like Amron's part, it's not going to be enough. You're going to have to change it.
Right.
But I'm a believer in waiting, especially things that are new. My heart goes out to that old boy who's working hard and has no idea how his bill's going to change. And there ain't no way you're going to get him to pay attention until he gets his bill. And my heart goes out to folks at KCP&L because they're the ones that have to deal with that guy that's pissed off, rightfully pissed off.
Right. But, they are also, I drove through Kansas City just the other day. They have billboards up. Yep. They are doing education. I mean, I think, look, it is going to take a lot of education.
Webster County, though. A person in Columbia might be wide-eyed and believe the very best view of the world from Kirkwood or something, but you're a Webster County old boy. There's a lot of folks, hardworking folks, that no matter what you do, the only way they're gonna see this is that first bill, right? That's the education,
of course,
right?
Of course.
That's just, my dad worked for a living, educated man. He would have read all those things, but probably to get me and my mom, who probably had her fingerprints on the thermostat the most, he's going to have to show us a bill and be ticked, and he ain't going to be ticked until he gets stung. I got some sympathy for that guy and for the utility of that situation because, while this may be good overall, they're the ones that got to bear the brunt of it up front,
Yeah, but I can tell you what I believe. It is my sincere belief that Scott Roop, as chair, and the other people who voted for that, I know Ryan Sylvie voted for it. He's not there anymore. But I believe they were looking at this from a free market concept where you pay more when there's more demand. The
PSC by definition is not exactly a free market concept, though. It is a regulatory body.
Monopolistic utilities like Evergy are not free market. We are. I think the purpose of the Public Service Commission is to create a competitive element because they have to, whenever they want to increase rates, they have to get scrutinized by the Public Service Commission. Yeah. The whole purpose of the Public Service Commission is to bring an element of, I would say, synthetic competition and synthetic free market concepts there. I think what Chairman Roop and the members of the commission who voted for this were trying to do was trying to bring some free market concepts to what is inherently a monopoly operation.
It feels like the way you've described this, and I'm not an expert, but I've done a little reading on it before you came in. It feels like the debate on this is probably not the debate of to do it or not to do it, because it seems like the nation is going that way.
Right.
Bigger forces than we can control in Missouri are pushing that way. It seems like some of the options might have been the way to take Amron's experience, compound upon it. It feels like somewhere in there was a way to do that, starting with an options-based system, and lead to mandatory instead of jumping mandatory. Mandatory seems like that one old boy swinging that hammer is never going to opt in because he's too busy.
Right.
So you got people that do, and all of a sudden now your change is the arc's a little slower.
I think you're going to see modifications and tweaks to this, and I think that with any other form of policy, it's going to look, whenever Ameren or Evergy try something, it's not going to be how they always do it. They're always going to be looking to ways to make that better, to make it more effective for their customers. That's what they're supposed to do. And I think that's what they'll do here too.
That's what you said, the PSC incentivizes them to look for those.
And that's what I believe that they are doing. And I think that's what they'll continue.
I got to show you something. I had a very dear buddy of mine pop in yesterday.
Yep.
Cinder Munslinger. Look at this. This is one of these Rod Jetton.
How old is that?
Gosh, that's 04. So this was his first re-election. It's got a picture of him and Rod. See, Rod designed these for him. Me and Rod's children, we had a whole little sweatshop. It was he finally put an air conditioner in it. It was a little portable warehouse thing in your backyard.
Yeah.
And we had a sweatshop of producing mail and these things. His poor kids. I mean, I was getting paid not enough, Rod, and you know this. I was getting paid Chinese wages. They were just getting paid straight sweatshop wages, room and board.
Yeah.
But here it's the old thing. He brought this by to me. It's got the inside with all the stuff. It's a throwback to when you had to work hard on some of these re-elections, and I liked it. I think he's giving me these stickers here, and then
wow. Oh, I was looking at
this.
that.
Yeah, here we go. Farmers for Munslinger. How about that sign?
That is a nice addition to the museum here. I like this.
Like if it's campaign time, right, and there's signs for judge and commissioner and all that, and you see this one sticking straight up like that, I like it.
Oh, that's
Also, his name is. I mean, good Lord.
I
all
like the
that.
colors.
Yeah, I'm gonna park it right there.
It's
for
like
now.
very
Sorry,
positive.
Governor.
It's like the ground and it's the sky. It's great. There's a psychology to those, I think.
I think it would stick out just in the road there.
Yeah.
And then obviously I got my Sheriff Marshak. He has been gracious with me. I got this tumbler. It's legit. You can tell.
Mhm.
I'll be coming over, and me and Gus are going to deliver this tomorrow. It's got the cop on it. See, this is a good stein here. It's got a good quality design. The concept here is the iron cops. It's got the top on it, which is always the mark of a quality sign. And it goes down good.
This is nice. I like the Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. I had an old buddy of mine. He was a former St. Louis City Council alderman. Sorry. He gave me a set of them. He swore me to secrecy, but I love them. I got the Statue of Liberty. There's like a set of 4 of them. He gave me the set of 4 of them one time a few years ago, and they're in my office. I really like it because it kind of fits with the theme of government things. Well, James, let me ask you.
Yeah.
You talk about this time of use rates.
Yes.
You said changes, which that's normal, right?
Right.
What would you change them to? Give me a tweak that you'd suggest.
Well, I mean, again, I think you would
give me a tweak for that old boy swinging that hammer today. How do you make his transition easier?
That's not the example I had in mind. I think the example I've been thinking about a lot is the person who is at home sick with medical devices running all the time. I think you'd want to give them some sort of. I think you want to be able to say, well, look, we're not going to make the prices so radically different for you on that because
like a hardship rate or something.
Yeah, like a hardship rate, which are tough because we don't have price
tough.
Discrimination in the state. Like we can't charge you less if you're a low income customer. We can't charge you more if you're a solar customer, which the utilities want to do. But we do. I think there are options. We can look at other states and we can make this broader. And I think we can make this more tailor made for the guy swinging the hammer, for the person that's homesick. For someone who has electric appliances, I think we can do that work.
I did think, and again, it speaks well to PSC. They did modify this order before it went into effect.
They did
on the dates and stuff, and I think that's a damn big deal for regular folks to bring that in, no matter what. If your bill goes up 20% and the bill's $100, that's one thing. That's a dinner out somewhere.
Right.
If your bill in the summertime goes up 20%, it's $200. Well, now you're starting to cut into folks.
That could be life and death.
Grocery. Yeah, I mean that's a big damn deal.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a real common sense, and so I guess it shows they are open to look at this, right?
I think they need to be, and I look forward to looking at it with them, and I certainly hope that the legislature will pay attention to that and learn about this as well, and see, and try to give them as much deference as they believe that the public is, that is going to benefit the public.
So bottom line here, there's 2 concepts at war. You have a federal government's policy that absolutely I think is very much encouraging to the point of I think heavy-handed is almost fair in some of these coal plant cases of using renewables, solar, wind, whatever.
Yeah.
You have some state policy leaders that think that's not reliable and not the approach they want to take. You have a PSC that's stuck in the middle with FERC and the utilities, and you have investors that the utilities have to answer their investors and the PSC. It is a challenging situation, and it comes down to pushing back against Washington. But I've always I bet on that. I have the Warren Zevon theory of government. Whoever has the most lawyers, guns, and money, I'm betting on that guy.
That's a great quote.
And Joe Biden has more lawyers, guns, and money than Mike Parson. It feels like the PSC is in a spot where they have terrible things pushing against them.
I mean, they have some ability to legislate. They are more, and you call that the quasi-judicial, quasi-legislative.
Well, it makes policy. It's not really judicial at all.
Yeah, well, they make decisions about orders for how they manage their utilities.
Yeah, but it's the thing that's out of the PSC. I think it's done a very good job of managing the grid for Missourians. But you do have a situation where you have a policymaking body that goes through a judicial process. And instead of interpreting the laws, their stated goal is to make policy, to tell you how much it costs to keep that TV on. But they go through a judicial framework to do that. Now, obviously, I think the product, the end result's been very good for the state. So maybe that's the right. But in my mind, that's a little bit. I don't think you'd set it up that way today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we've been regulating utilities the same way for 110 years. The PSC was founded.
And I think it's worked pretty well.
It's worked pretty well, but you can say. I mean, you look at Senator Laughlin saying that the PSC has done something wrong. They're not watching out for the public. But I don't hear anyone in the legislature saying, should we deregulate our utilities, which is something that has been done in other parts of the
It's been
country.
done in Illinois. I think they'd like to put that genie back
And
in
Texas and some other conservative states. Now, I'm not saying that's what we should do, but that's like that. If you wanted to like have a free market,
you look around
solution.
the country, though, I'm not sure that that's been a solution that people
Well,
go back and do again. Do you?
I'm not saying that they should do it. I'm just saying like I don't hear anyone talking about it as an option.
I think you're going to hear this session some folks talk about adjusting the PSC, and I always think it's interesting when you have former legislators on the PSC.
Yep.
They generally have a high deference for the law, for the state laws.
Yeah,
because they were part of making, and they understand the situation. That to me, it is a real tough situation. How do you regulate? I mean, you got policymakers here that don't want to go down the renewable road,
right,
or down to the extent they are. You have a federal policy that's like a big snowball rolling.
Yeah,
you get the PSC stuck in the middle.
But
tough situation.
But I'll tell you, one of the things that the legislature has been doing for 5 years is basically tying the PSC's hands on rates. On their, like basically utilities are going to be able to raise rates faster and quicker. In 2018, we saw Senate Bill 564 get passed that like basically said that utility companies are going to have a lot more ability to do that.
You go down to Sedalia and talk to an old boy at Nucor.
Yeah.
Probably he don't know what that law is, but he's probably damn glad they passed it.
Yeah,
right?
and I am too. I mean, look, I think it's good, but I mean,
and like your quips and stuff, it's some of the things you could do. I mean, to me, the real future of those are going to be these renewable projects. Those are ones,
and they use them for that.
Yeah,
they use them for that. But they will start. I mean, I guarantee you, they will use them for gas. They will use them for small modular nuclear devices.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but I mean, what I'm saying is the PSC has had their hands tied by the legislature and allowed the utilities to raise a lot of rates. So if the concern is that our bills are too high,
the bill from 18 that helped Nucor come to Sedalia.
Yeah,
that did not tie the PSC's hands. That gave them a tool in the toolbox. The PSC had to agree that Nucor could do this. I mean, that wasn't something that the PSC couldn't have done that before.
That's right.
They passed the bill. Then the PSC could do that, and they did. And I don't hear anybody in Pettis County complaining.
No, and I'm not complaining about it either because Nucor gets to run a steel plant on wind. I think that's great. But the accounting concept, the big thing that the utility companies wanted to put into that bill, that has very much curbed the PSC's ability to regulate how rates go up because now utilities can do that more. So if the legislature,
just for our few PSC folks who might be across the street watching, it's not so much they changed the ROI, they changed the things you could turn in as recoverable expenses,
the accounting process.
Yeah,
that basically they have to accept. So if people are really worried about like bills going up, they should look at like what they've done as far as making the PSC less effective.
Well, the PSC should probably approve every single one of Evergy's billboards, right?
Sure.
To implement the policy that they wanted. Yeah.
I think absolutely. The marketing that the utility use, that does come from ratepayers.
Yeah. I mean, I think that should be recoverable. They're educating folks on a policy that the PSC wanted.
I would hope that nobody is going to argue that in a future case. I think that their education is absolutely necessary.
The second part, so you got this push. If you were sitting down with, let's say somebody from, let's say a very forceful leader from Shelby.
Yes.
How could you convince that leader that wind and solar actually are reliable and should be a significant part, maybe even in the future, the key part of Missouri's electricity grid?
Well, I would listen. This is what I'd point to right now in this summer, where it is hot, it is dry. And you look at like what has really been saving us from brownouts and blackouts around the country during those peak times when it is sunny and it is scorching out there. What has saved us? Solar. That has saved us in the South. That has saved us in Texas. That has saved us here.
Let me ask you a question about that. Now, if you had a coal plant, it could also save you if you built enough, right?
If you built enough. But I mean, the reality is
that solar plant, the concern is, okay, it's only sunny half the day on a good day, right? I would, as I understand it, storage, it's almost like the Europeans with gas.
Yeah.
When they had to, when that pipeline from Russia got cut, they got innovative. And now they can store this somehow liquefied gas.
Yeah.
That's kind of what America's gonna have to do to assuage her concerns.
Yeah, because I don't
you probably have to store the energy, right? Then it is reliable.
And also what I'd say to Cindy O'Loughlin is like, we are not talking about 100% renewable energy right now. I don't know if we're talking about it being foreseeable until 2045 or 2050.
What is a percentage that this state could honestly, you could look somebody in the eye and say, renewable should be this % of the grid in Missouri.
I mean, I can tell you right now that like on most days, City of Springfield's running off about 45% wind. That is something that they never have a problem with. I mean, I think you could easily have 50% of your power coming from renewable energy right now.
Now, that's even without
but we
the
can't
ability
because
to
we don't
store
have transmission lines that can do it. We have a lot of challenges still. So because transmission goes to places where solar and wind is being produced, and it can like bring it from these really isolated areas, but we just don't have the transmission. And that's one thing I agree with the utilities and I agree on, is that we need more transmission projects.
And that's some of the bills that have been passed recently are specifically to do that, right?
Well, they've been, I mean, one of the things,
transmission lines is a big deal.
There's been a lot of controversy about that. The bills that have passed, the reform that's passed is paying landowners more money, which I think they should absolutely pay them more money.
I tell you what, I think Garrett Hawkins will never get the credit he's due, because people were wanting to fight that grain belt fight and refight it and refight it and refight it.
Still are.
And the fact is, grain belt happened. It's over. It is what it is. Nothing's going to change from that.
Right.
But I noticed they tried to sneak a Tiger line in, and then they stopped and they went back.
It's being before the PSC right now. It's still going to be approved.
But my point is, they tried to put another old law, and Garrett Hawkins raised hell. And I think because Garrett had been a leader in putting the old away and actually passing a law that wasn't trying to go backwards. Because I think, look, you can argue about grain belt however you want to. The fact is, the state of Missouri has some policies and laws, and they made grain belt go back, and they made them redo everything.
Yep.
And they went back and did it. So just for a matter of fairness, I think it was after they went back and redid everything the way the court told them to. Boy, I think it's awfully hard to go to an old boy and say, okay, we're pulling back our marble again. So that was over. And I think it took a lot of leadership to show that. And once they stopped that, then they passed a forward-looking law, and the company was going to put this line into the old law. They stopped and said, you know what? We'll do it under the new law. Yeah. And I thought that was respect.
That's what they should have done. Yeah,
yes.
And that's what they're doing. And I mean, the money they're going to pay out is going to be what's required there, and that's a good thing.
And it's going to be the higher sum, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm with you on that. I thought, you know what? That's how Missourians can handle things.
Yeah.
That was the right way. I thought they moved forward, but I guess end of the day, how long until there is the storage capacities? So if they had the transmission, if you could store it up, how long until you could look someone and say, all right, there's storage technology available. It's cost effective to put this in, and we can really commit. And that TV is going to stay on 24 hours a day.
I think you could start seeing those improvements by 2025 if we started putting that
in
right now. Yeah, I do, and I think certainly by 2030 it's going to be commonplace.
So within the reasonable future,
yeah, it's already being done. It's already being done in Minnesota, California, places like that. Yeah, the future is here.
See, I think you take some business people. And I think most business folks, if you can show them on paper, you can take them and show them. I don't think people are transient. I don't think people are like married to coal for any reason.
No,
they're married to coal because it worked.
They want their power to work.
We all kind of go back in business. You want reliability. We want stability. You don't give a damn how that I don't give a damn what makes that thing come on.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be cheap.
Sure.
And after that, I make me no difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I think there are some people who want to see, businesses want to see renewable energy be a big part of where they get their power.
All right. Rolford always comes up.
Right of first refusal?
Yep.
Yeah.
Explain to me, just like I am the simplest hillbilly on a gravel road. Let's assume we're at Stringtown Grocery right now eating a bologna sandwich. What is Rolford?
Oh, yeah, it's a hard concept to explain.
It is hard. That's why I'm asking you to do it, not me.
Okay, because our utilities in the state belong to organizations that make them put up certain transmission lines. And there are lots of transmission.
What's that? What do you mean?
Okay, so when you look at a map of the United States, there are regions in this country that the utilities belong to an organization that controls a transmission market where you can buy and sell power.
Kind of like a co-op.
Kind of like a co-op.
Yeah.
It's like a reverse auction. So like the cheapest bid wins. And we have 2 of those in Missouri that like serve other states. Those organizations tell utilities like you need to chip in to build transmission projects so we can keep things running. What right of first refusal is, it would allow a utility in Missouri to be able to be the first in line to be able to build those without relying on a more competitive bidding system.
Where do you come down on that?
I believe that will slow down the transmission process, and we are opposed to it. Renew Missouri is opposed to it.
Is it that you don't trust the existing utilities? I mean, I guess the argument is, there an argument to say you want the utility to do this because it helps their bottom line. The healthier they are, the healthier the grid is, and
that's certainly one of
their.
They're
going to run their customers on it, right? So they probably would have a bigger interest in making
some
it good.
of their customers. Now it's going to go to other customers as well, and
Okay.
I think there's a lot of really good companies out there. By
So
the way,
you're saying they might build their customers' line a little bit better grade than they would other folks?
They'll certainly be slower. They certainly will act like a monopoly. And I think that we should have more competitive bidding there, because then look, there are companies that are already pre-approved to build these things. The utilities would use them anyway. They just want to be able to take the money from it. So Ameren would go hire the same company that wants to bid on this, but just Ameren would be able to be the first in line to be able to recover it.
Is there an argument though that it's better for the state and the folks paying that bill, the healthier Ameren is?
I mean, Ameren's healthy.
But my point is, I think that's probably a judgment that you could argue or not argue, right? From a business perspective, I would agree with you. By mine, I think the investor community think Ameren's a healthy company.
Yeah.
But is there not an argument to say that Flat Doug Beck in Afton, he's better off if Ameren's healthy and regular real life Doug Beck?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the competitive process is working now. I think monopolies, if you strengthen them, only make them worse. I mean, right now that would only strengthen the monopolistic power they have. And should we be trying to strengthen monopolies, or should we try to be bringing more competition to this market? And I think that's ultimately where you have to fall in, to try to make that decision. Or should we say that these monopolies need to be more powerful, or should we say that more people should be involved with that process? And I think that that's ultimately where people fall in. And I think it's better if there's more competition there.
So the transmission lines that'll be built, they'll be of the quality that could help deliver some of this.
They absolutely will be. They absolutely will be.
So some of the work is being put in now that will benefit later, even and if you get the power storage, I mean, that's what it all comes down to. Like a Tesla used to be able to go 250 miles. That was right when it started selling them. Now they're up to 400 or 500 miles, right? And
Toyota's they say they've got technology that will let them go up to 650.
Yeah, but that's probably like a pull chain start car. And
in 2026, you're going to see that on the market.
Yeah, but it's
not going to be a pull.
It's probably like in Chesterfield. Probably California Corey would drive one of those. I mean, you ain't going to see that.
I think it's going to look like a normal car.
you think? Well, yeah. The Teslas kind of look like normal cars. I mean, they sort of do.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that damnedest thing, I could have gave a damn about the electric part of it. But Sylvia and Holzman, the way they could just put it in their phone and it'll take you somewhere. That's
amazing. It's amazing.
Incredible.
That innovation is amazing. But Elon Musk did have to get help from the government to do it.
It's so funny. Some folks from our part of the state, right? We say the government's bad. Well, the fact is, every time you say 2x4 up in Niangua, in Elkin, in Stringtown, the government's guaranteeing a loan, or the government is in most of those one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
And we can talk all we want, but that's just a fact.
It is just the system we have set up.
I thought Obama deserves a lot of credit because the solar industry, the research that was only going to be, you hadn't have to have the government involved. And I think if you look at our geopolitical landscape, it is better. The more of these technologies that are available, the better it is for America.
Yeah.
Because the people we buy energy from are the shits.
We need to be doing that more. That no matter what we do, it needs to be more within our borders. No doubt about it.
And so I thought Obama did a hell of a job. I mean, it's expensive, but developing new stuff's expensive.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is. And it's just going to take time. And I think we are getting there. And I think once you see the investment put in place from now, we are going to be talking about a whole new economy, I hope. All new benefits for the state, I hope.
Well, James, I sure appreciate you sticking around. I know we went a little long, but this stuff's so complicated. You almost have to, when I ask you a question, your answer starts off, I'm like, well, hell, I better stop and ask you the same question.
I know.
Because it's just so damn hard to get your head around. But I sure appreciate you making the time.
Well, thanks for having me.
Some stuff. I think the legislature is going to be talking about some of your issues coming up. So it's going to be, I hope you come back in here and visit with us. And
anytime.
You never know when you might, do you think he's going to see an old-fashioned Farmers for Munsling your sign when you came in?
I got to tell you, that is a blast from the past.
And I might need you if I get any more like California internet stalkers from my kids, might need to come hide out in your basement for a day or two.
I can help you fill out the ex parte order.
Oh, buddy. Oh, last question.
Yeah.
Mutual friend, actually.
Yes.
Crystal Quaid running for governor.
My buddy.
So, look, under any illusions that she's the favorite. Any Democrat that got nominations is going to be an underdog.
It's
right?
going to be tough. Yeah.
I mean, Nicole Gallo is a very qualified, very good candidate, statewide elected official.
She got creamed,
and it ended up not being competitive. Yeah. But there is a difference. I think Crystal Quaid I did a radio show today.
Yeah.
At the lake.
Yeah.
Guy, he's a Republican, conservative, but he had asked me, I think for a number maybe, or somehow I put a word in that she should do this show. Did the show, listened to it. The guy's a Republican.
Yep.
But you know what? I think he came in with some harder questions, and he found that she was a truly personable, nice, kind, serious person. And they had a great interview. Now, they were all questions from the right. She handled them all. He didn't like all the answers, but every answer was respectful. She's a talented person, and I think she'll raise the bar for what a Democrat can do from that office. I think she will raise the bar in some of the suburbs for sure, combined with the abortion issue, and give Democrats a better chance to pick up legislative seats. And I also think you see the right storm clouds come. She is a credible candidate to where if lightning struck, she could take advantage of that and win that race. It is not a 0% chance that if some unexpected things happen, she is absolutely. Yeah, I found in these races, you have the everybody. Oh, this person's going to win. When they stumble, if the other party doesn't have someone credible, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But
if they stumble, there's a base credibility. And I think she far surpasses that and sets her up to be one of the stars of the party in the future.
I think when people get to know her and the state's going to get to know her, they're going to find her to be a very sincere, very genuine person with a great story, intelligent. And I think she's going to impress a lot of people who are not expecting to be impressed by her.
Now tell me who's the Democrats running for U.S. Senate. I would say that's an even longer shot. I think Missourians are willing to have the other party governor before they send him to Washington.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
But I just have the thought. You have Wesley Bell, who's a smart guy, good guy, would be a fine senator. Then you have Mr. Coons from over in Independence.
Yep.
Grew up here.
Yep.
Obviously got some talent politically.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't know a lot about him. Quentin Lucas might run.
Maybe.
Quinn's a hell of an old boy. I mean, Quinn's talented. I mean, Quinn walks in a room, an important dude's there. He's got that charisma. The one I think would be the best person to debate is Carla May.
She's on the Senate Energy Committee. She's great on there. I think you're right. It is going to be. I mean, I think a St. Louis candidate is going to be tough around the state. I think.
Well, she's not going to win. But what would be great would be the two of them on stage.
Yeah.
And if you're Josh Hawley, you went to Yale. You're quite a proper debater, and you got a lot of fancy words and what have you. And you have Carla May comes up and starts quoting Bible scripture to him and saying, "Can you feel me, Josh?" That debate, I'm not a big debate watcher. I would actually watch that debate.
Well, and certainly I think Lucas Kuntz and Josh Hawley, I think they kind of look similar. I think they kind of have similar.
That would just be Kuntz throwing bombs that Hawley blowing him off. And I'm sure Hawley he's very intelligent. He's smart enough not to engage Carla any more than he has to for whatever hour he's on the stage with her.
Yeah.
But the Kuntz thing will just be him going over the top with some stuff that probably won't land. Carla will wrap in a scripture.
Yeah.
And I think Carla, while I don't think honestly she's got a very good chance of becoming a United States Senator, I think she's got a chance of becoming a Democratic star in the party nationally.
Yeah. No,
I mean, her personality, it's great.
I certainly think that some of those people running are going to certainly be looking at running for congressional races later and just building up their name. Possibly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's okay.
I've kept you longer than I said I would. I appreciate it, bud. Thank you so much for the time. I'll cheers you.
Cheers. Okay.
Thank y'all. This week on the show, Mark Alford's on the show. It is you have a host this week of far more physical attractiveness, intellectual prowess, and charm. You have Atlanta's own it ain't Atlanta's own Chipper Jones or anything. It's Atlanta's I've been playing this immaculate whatever game that Richard McGill played and got me onto. Aaron Baker is going to be the host of the show. Oh. It's taped. It was great. I saw the pictures from it. You're going to love hearing Aaron. Different perspective. Alford's so good. Sunday, this week in Missouri Politics from our studios, University of Central Missouri. Aaron Baker hosts Mark Alford and a great panel. Kay Hofflander, come on. I mean, you can enjoy watching Kay Hofflander. It's on you. We will see you Sunday for This Week in Missouri Politics. Then I'll see you back here next week for This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update. Don't forget, Courtyard by Marriott. James, where do you go if you want to be taken seriously? What hotel do you go turn down? If you want to be taken seriously.
What hotel do I go to downtown?
If you're representing somebody wants a meeting, you go to the Courtyard by Marriott, right?
Sure.
That's the only place. He knows. We'll see you next week.